Come on in, welcome, welcome, greetings and salutations, joy and prosperity. You are now witnessing another powerful edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. On your StreamYard, on your YouTube, on your Twitter, on my EarthCam page. Come on in, all is a blessing. We had a powerful, powerful meditation. I'm ready to go. The beloved Denise Augustine is with me. My cousin, not my Loa cousin, but my cousin. He also will be with us momentarily. Welcome, greetings. Come on in. Come on home. Come back home to Africa. She's calling your name through the wind. Come back home to Africa. The fatty calf and golden ring are waiting for you once again. Yes, coming back to you. I'm longing for my family. Coming back to you. Out of bondage and now I am free. Da 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 da. Greetings, Blog Talk Radio. Welcome, welcome. Come on in. Greetings, greetings to all the nations of the world, all the ethnicities of the world, all the people of the world who join us on Blog Talk Radio. I'm indeed grateful. My call-in number is 847 is my call-in number. 847 is not my call-in number. My call-in number is 845 is the area code. 277-9143. 845-277-9143. Come on in. And of course, you can always join us here on StreamYard. Plug in your webcam, plug in your mic. I'm always honored and grateful for participation in the show. For those who join us here, who share, who have questions, who have comments, who have requests. Greetings to beloved S. Marie. Greetings, greetings, beloved. Peace and blessings to you. I don't know why my chat likes to cut up my links. It works just fine until I start the show. And then my Periscope starts spamming my link. So let's try this again with some different wording. Periscope still won't take it. So come on in, Twitter. It's already in Twitter. Just go to my homepage on twitter.com/thedivineprince, and you'll see a show link there for my Twitter audience. Greetings, Nina Lloyd. So faithful, beloved, so blessed. So much is coming your way. I greet you and S. Marie and all the people who are now waiting in StreamYard to come on in. All my Blog Talk Radio listeners, my co-hosts. Greetings, greetings wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much. Truly honored, truly grateful. Eshu Oleguana Kosi Were Awo on Lo Uto Ne Iwo Ada Afan Bo Osi Obatala Mi Ita Ni Ebo Onilio Aban Eshu. Eshu is the respected elder who flogs, confronts, uncovers fools. That one versed in mysteries uses truth to own you. He causes scattered to feed poverty. Obatala shakes rascals to have sacrifice. The owner of warnings is the one who is Eshu. Aboru, Aboye, Aboshishe, Ashe. May our Ebo reach your rune. May our Ebo be accepted. May our Ebo allow what we desire to come to pass. And so we say, Ashe. Divine, all blessed greetings and salutations. You are now sitting live with the Divine Prince, Pan-African Spiritualist, Practitioner, Author, and Advisor, Ologun, Oloye, Hoodoo, Obeya, Bokur. You are also sharing with my very special co-host, my cousin, and I don't mean my Loa, my Voodoo Loa cousin. I mean my cousin, my blood cousin, and Oloye, Ifawole, Oladeji, Efuntade, Chief Priest Baba Awo of IleIseseOladeji, also known as Inner Consciousness Spiritual Center in Oklahoma City. You are also sharing with my beloved co-host and best friend and PT partner and master historian and griot, the beloved Denise Augustine, and our sacred stories, oursacredstories.com. So I will be bringing them on screen. I invite you as well to follow the show link as it scrolls at the bottom of the page. I also have it inserted in the chat for your copy and paste leisure and convenience. And do join us with your questions, comments, and requests. This day, this Ifa day of great power and divination and hearing from spirit, we invite you to join us in this sacred space. We are indeed sharing with you in all things spiritual, mystical, metaphysical, cosmic, evolutionary, revolutionary, healing, and holistic from a Pan-African Hoodoo world spiritualist perspective. Understanding that all is truly and indeed a blessing. All is truly indeed a blessing. I like to breathe when I say that. All is truly and indeed a blessing if you can just see beyond the veils. Open your third eyes. See beyond the plastic world that is presented to us in this human existence. See beyond those veils and know that it's all just an illusion and a test, a training ground, if you will, and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. The why, the how of our being. Why are we human? Why are we here? Why are we in the middle of this universe and this galaxy? What is our purpose? What is our meaning? It really all comes down to that question, right? That is the great mystery that I talk about. So indeed, if you can just see beyond the veils and understand that it's an illusion, that it's a test, that it's a testing ground, that it's a preparatory place for another state of being in existence, then it makes it easier to take in the all is a blessing, even in the challenging times, even in the hard times, even in the times when we had to put in a little extra work. For indeed, all is a blessing, and many of my audience and my friends and family and my clients and my godchildren and my initiates know that all is a blessing is indeed my mantra, my affirmation, reverberation, reiteration, and indeed it is my reality. It's crucial to everything that I think and believe and understand. My teaching, my walk, my work, my demonstration along this divine, all blessed life path. I like to call life divine, all blessed, because we speak and create and recreate our reality. So my life path is divine, all blessed. Whatever the weather, whatever the challenge, whatever the heat and cold and storm enlightening that might come. It's divine, all blessed. It's critical to my foundation. It's critical to how I operate. No matter what I'm studying, no matter what I'm learning, whatever the challenge is, it is indeed how I, the divine prince, make sense out of all that we're challenged with here in our daily existence on Mother, Father, Earth. And it's my personal place of power and understanding. It is a place that I begin, the place where I realize and crystallize my endeavors, understanding that I create and recreate my own reality. I create and recreate the fulfillment of my own destiny. Only I can get in the way. Only I can block it. Only I can stop it. Only I can limit it. And the more we breathe and understand the I and understand the Alif, we better comprehend that indeed I am God. You are God. And together in this experiment, we create and recreate the reality in which we indeed exist. And we can choose to see it as a traumatic event. We can choose to see it as, boot camp, or like some athletes manage to do, like many scholars and book writers manage to do. We view it as an exercise for getting us from point A to point B to point C in the fulfillment of destiny. Today, this Friday, April 9th, 2021, I am emanating and vibrating with you and for you live, virtually, verbally, cosmically, quantum universally, from this working temple of the house of the divine prince. Thai Potions, Hoodoo Central LLC, in this beautiful, historic, legendary, haunted, and most enchanted city in America, New Orleans, Louisiana, the land of my ancestors and those who came before me along this hoodoo, voodoo, spiritualist, obey a life path and journey, passing down the great obeah stick along with the life-giving knowledge of the herbs, roots, plants, rituals, spirits, minerals, the powers in which we live and exist in each and every day. Our culture, our history, our traditions, our people, and indeed our sacred stories. Right, Denise? OurSacredStories.com. All is a blessing. I am, I am, I am. That's the first mantra. I am. I am. And we say I am enough and breathe and take in I am and breathe and exhale I am. We then are able to walk into the realm of magic and ritual. I am is not just Jehovah. I am is not just Allah. I am is not just Olodumare. I am is not just Bondi. I am is not just Mawolisa. But indeed, if I am is, that's another mantra. I am is all, then indeed we are all a part and a vessel for the I am. And because of the I am, because of the creators that came before, because of the great ancestors of whom shoulders we now have our standing and our being, all powerful, open and receptive to all that operates for my good, here and now in this most present moment in divine time space. And I create and recreate the reality that mirrors my best interest. And so I want to talk today about magic and ritual. And we all operate and perform in various demonstrations of magic and ritual each and every day of our living and our being. Even the so self-identified non-religious or non-spiritual among us. For indeed, we have national rituals and cultural rituals and community rituals and even family rituals. I know in some houses in my family, a woman dare not walk through the door on New Year's Day before a man has entered the house. It's a ritual, and there is a magic attached to that ritual. In some houses in my family, you dare not go into the new year without a brand new, crisp wicker broom behind your door. Ritual, but it also links us to magic. But when we say amen, when we pay our taxes, when we acknowledge the flag, we are operating in a ritual. And some of us have done a little deeper study, and we've seen the geographical layout of Washington, D.C., and all the magic that Lafayette, a black man, put into the designing of our nation's capital. The Egyptian sculpture is not accidental. The magical numerical equations in that design are not accidental. And many of you today acknowledge and accept the presence of an Illuminati or some greater magical power behind our ability to exist in a country that maintains world dominance and such a young baby country at that. So there is indeed ritual that we all are born into, that mama did, that father did, that indeed your outside community did, your extended family, your religious community, how we are educated, how we are taught involves to a great degree ritual. And some of us go to parochial schools, and some of us go to religious schools, and some of us go to the public school. But there's still that acknowledgement of ritual and magic. We have a conversation here that's, I like to say, prone to go in many directions. Because, of course, Queen Mother Denise is going to bring her perspective. And, of course, my beloved cousin is going to bring his perspective. And we have an opportunity to go in many directions with this conversation. Alexis Williams, I see you, beloved. I'm going to bring you in momentarily as well. Thank you so much for wearing your mask and taking the time to be present with us here. I'm going to bring you on screen momentarily. Aboye, beloved cousin, welcome.
Oboto
Bawoni.
Dadani. Modupe Pupo.
Say Dadani. Welcome, beloved Queen. How you doing?
Good morning. Good afternoon. I want to just make you aware, in case you were not, the designer of Washington, D.C., the black man, was that you're thinking of somebody else, because he was Benjamin Banneker who designed it. But let me tell you why there's so much mythology behind that.
Not Lafayette.
Not Lafayette, Benjamin Banneker.
Oh, okay. Forgive me,
Benjamin Banneker. Now, let me tell you why there's so much mythology and so much magic in the layout. The first thing is he was a mathematician. And you know that there is sacred magic in mathematics, in numbers. Okay, so he had a foundation in mathematics. He was a free African American. So also, the foundation of this nation was done by these men. All belong to what's the organization, Ty?
The Masons.
They were all Masonics. Now, he was free, but I'm sure he had some kind of contact with the Masonic order, because they were full of Masonic, and there's Masonic symbols all over Washington, D.C. So there's not only sacred mathematics, he was also an astronomer. And there is magic in those stars.
That's right.
So when he laid this out, he used everything, every sacred geometry, every sacred star writings. He used all of that to lay it out, and they laid it out for success. All these things were not by accident. They were laying out the capital of this nation. And therefore, they called on every bit of sacred knowledge they knew for the success of this nation. And so that's why you have all these symbols and all this geometry and all this lined up with the stars and all of this stuff. So the very foundation of this nation is founded in magic. Okay.
That's right. And please, thank you for correcting me. I am welcome to correction.
Oh, I know that. So am I.
Banica. I get
Banica, yay.
Yeah. So we're born into magic. We're born into ritual. To what degree we are conscious of it or aware of it has everything to do with your upbringing, your guardians, and their awareness of it and ability to sort of voice that and give language or give words to it. Some of us still won't bring the new year in without black eyed peas, you know, and you might call it superstition, you might call it just a historical tradition, but indeed it is steeped in ritual and magic that lives and grows and continues to sort of support a foundation that I speak about almost every day, that we did not lose our gods, we did not lose our connection to our spiritual power and tradition, but we had to change our language. We were forced to change our demonstration. We were forced to go underground. We were forced to synchronize and blend, if you will, with the traditions that were dominant geographically at any location where we are. There's a degree of rhythm and counting and cadence and repetition in many world religions and traditions that feed into this idea of ritual and magic. I'm gonna let Oloye speak a little bit more about that in his time, in terms of Ifa and the chanting of Oriki. I find Oriki's hard to describe. Is it a prayer? Is it a mantra? Is it a chant? Is it all of that? Is it an incantation going on? So indeed, what we say, what we repeat, what we reverberate, whether it's a psalm, whether it's a prayer, whether it's a hymn, there's a ritual taking place, and in that, there's a magic connected.
And there's a rhythm to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a rhythm. Everything in your body has a rhythm. From your heartbeat to the pumping of your blood, from your blood pressure, everything has a rhythm. Now I'm gonna let somebody else talk, but there's something I've got to tell you while it's sitting on me. That black-eyed pea, black-eyed pea came with us. It was called a lady pea. It looks and is the same family as the black-eyed pea we cook now, but it's smaller. And if you look online, you can find these lady peas. Now, we braided it in our hair with rice. We carried, so prolific was this slave trade that we actually carried food on us in case we were captured. Now, in order to free those enslaved that had been captured, they actually counted how many pounds of black-eyed peas they needed per enslaved person that was coming on that ship. And that is what they fed us on this journey that took between 9 and 12 weeks. So the black-eyed pea not only grows prolifically, but it will nourish you for long periods of time. It's good with protein. It has all kind of vitamins in it. So not only that, but there is a ritual, a money ritual done with 2 bowls and black-eyed peas. The moving of that black-eyed peas from one bowl to another, the creating of that energy of prosperity with black-eyed peas. Now I'm gonna let somebody else talk because you know me, I'm a historian, and I'll get started and I'll bring this thing down to the nth degree.
I'm going to let Oloye, my cousin, speak, and then I'm going to open up Alexis and let Alexis speak.
My blessings to everybody. I hope everyone is doing well. It's great to see you, Mama Denise. I'm grateful.
Nice
I'm glad to see you back.
Thank you.
So, you know, ritual it's essential in many aspects of Ifa. You know, in everything we do, as was said before prior, is ritual. Where the way that we go to prayer, the way that we might invoke Orisha, the way that we might invoke our ancestors, the way that we might invoke Ifa, Orumile, all that is all in how we go about doing it. And in how we go about doing it, it is the drawing of that essential power that will allow for our connection to manifest with that Orisha, with Ifa, with our ancestors, that will then bring out the necessary elements and power that will allow for whatever it is that we're praying for to come to manifestation. So therefore, whatever we are doing, it is all about how we approach it. And then it's all about the sincerity behind it. And if we're going to invoke our Orisha, invoke our ancestors, invoke any, it's the intent and it's the sincerity that allows for much to manifest out of what we're going there for. Then the rituals or whatever it is inside of the ritual has that much more power and potency, because when we go to it, we're going to it already with the belief that it's manifesting as we speak. So it's all about our approach. It's all about our intention. And it's all about whether we truly believe that what we are going to spirit for is already in motion. It's already manifesting.
Yes. Alexis, are you with me, beloved?
Yes, I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can't see you anymore, but we can certainly hear you.
Okay. All right. So first, I would like to thank you, the Divine Prince, for helping me begin my journey on fulfilling and finding my purpose here, why I'm here. And right now, I just want to get more in tune with my ancestors, because I would like to know my purpose here while I'm here. And I'm learning every day something new about myself and why I am here and what my ancestors want me to do to fulfill my journey here on earth. And that was it. I don't have that much to say. Like I said, I'm new and I'm learning, and I'm learning as much as I can. I'm joining, I'm reading every day. I purchase books, and hopefully I can get back on in another session and and explain and share some things that I've learned to help me in life right now to everyone else.
Well, thank you, Alexis. We certainly appreciate you. I'm not quite sure if that was just a comment or an actual question. I'm sure that all of us have a different sort of response to how we connect with our ancestors, and particularly if we're going through a transition or going through some sort of challenge. I believe also the three of us would express a different degree of relevance in terms of positioning the ancestors in coming into a tradition. For instance, in my house, we start with the ancestors. Some houses start with the hand of Ifa. In Haitian Voodoo, we often start with the lave tete. And that's the washing of the head or the opening and clearing of the head. So I believe those two things sort of go hand in hand. in terms of self-discovery. And I'm trying to find out who I am, get a better understanding of who I am, what my purpose is, where I come from, where I'm going. So God led me first to the ancestors, and then the ancestors and the traditions led me to examine my head. And that's how my personal journey and how I operate in terms of my housing works in moving people into the systems and sort of into these practices. Um, we all come from some ritual tradition of ancestors. I don't care how black you are. I don't care what neighborhood of blackness you grew up in. You had grandma's picture somewhere. You had the old heirloom Bible somewhere. We had that one area of the house where we kept sacred items, that often acknowledged those who came before, and of course, elders and those who had passed away. In the unfortunate case that members of the family would pass away, we have somewhere that we sort of ritually would gather that. I think over the time with industrialization and commercialization and economy and paying bills, there came a greater distraction between us and our families and sort of that acknowledgement of ritual. I come from a time of Sunday dinners. Families always gathered on Sunday and everybody had to eat together, or you gathered at one particular house. We still do that to some degree with Congo Square here in New Orleans. We come and gather to eat spiritually together every Sunday, and try to make that a consistent thing. But things like that have fallen away. Family reunions, and those gatherings are a ritual and a magic within itself. The degree of information that I've learned about myself and where I'm from at these family gatherings from these older matriarchal and patriarchal members of the family and the community, and how that then, I take that back and incorporate that into my quote unquote magic. Cousin, I don't know if you've heard me say this before, but at least once a year, I go deep into the Delta, where my people are from, and I won't say when or where or how, but I pull up a whole cotton bush because they basically planted a cotton field, a cotton plantation, on top of my great grandparents on my father's side, on top of their grave. That's the side you and I will be connected on. So every year I go and pull up an entire cotton bush, which is illegal. Forgive me, and I'm not suggesting anybody do what I do, but I do it, and I use the whole thing from the root to the herb to the cotton. I use the whole thing in my ancestral work throughout the year. I believe, strongly believe, and find that it empowers not just me, but what I do. And in keeping my ancestors present in what I do, then they're showing up in what I'm doing with and for other people. It was the ancestors that brought me and Denise together. And Denise is standing out on the neutral ground in front of St. Louis Cemetery #1, where Marie Laveau is buried, just doing what she does. And I'm coming through one day, probably walking back and forth from the post office, and the ancestors assured that we meet. And I mean, we met. It wasn't just a, hey, how you doing, baby? I mean, we met. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, we probably talked for at least an hour or more.
We did.
In the middle of the ground. And I went into readings, unprovoked, and divination, and she told stories and sort of connected us, back to the root when her people were here and my people would have shared the same space. And we've been family ever since. And so she's a strong witness, if I can brag just a little bit, to at least some aspects of my magic. She been around to see me do some things and to see spirit really, work. So I'm, in any conversation about magic and ritual, at least in ATR, under the umbrella of traditional African-based religious systems and indigenous world systems, you got to have a foundation of the ancestors. You got to start there. I feel like I'm talking too much.
I have another question, if you don't mind.
Please.
Since I'm beginning my journey and I'm learning, I'm working on my altar. How would I know which Erisha to mainly focus on?
Okay, now that's a different issue than just ancestors.
Okay.
First of all, let me be clear, and I'm hesitant because I know some people in the Erisha community are going to be upset by this information being broadcasted. But we don't mix the living with the dead. We don't mix Erisha with the dead. They're two completely separate entities, if you will. So when you start talking about Erisha from this voodoo perspective, then we're talking about someone who's initiated, someone who's gone through a certain degree of processes within Ifa, within Lukumi, within Santeria, and has grown to accept or receive an Orisha. And with that comes a set of rules, and my cousin will speak to this better than me, comes a set of rules, protocols, taboos, things you need to follow, processes you need to attend to then be able to properly care for the Orisha, sort of being inhabited in your residency, if you will. In Voodoo, we lave tet, you wash the head, and you receive, some would even say possess, a loa. And so now you're not only a representative for the loa, but you're housing for the loa. So what the loa is allergic to, you are now allergic to. What the loa enjoys, you now protect and honor those things. But I guess my point is, it comes with a degree of relationship. I like to describe it as, you have children, you have young girls, and some teenage boys show up at the door and knock and come in and don't acknowledge you, don't acknowledge the parents, don't seek permission, don't build some kind of relationship. So it's the same, in my opinion, with operating with the Loa and Orisha. I find it a dangerous thing for people who are untrained, uninitiated, unexperienced to try and invite spiritual powers into their domain that they're not prepared to receive. Because when you do that, you're also opening up yourself to all kind of energies, jinn, angels, demons, devils. You're opening yourself up to all kind of energies, and there will be things that come through, and I'm speaking as a representative of Voodoo, that you can't always control, and particularly by yourself. So often this type of demonstration is done in a ceremony, in a group, in a ritual, and then there are other witnesses present to what is taking place. And so the Loa will speak, or the Risha will speak, or give its demonstration on the divination board. And then that is given to the person, the client, the initiate, that the ceremony is being done for. We have a sort of a Western thing, and it's a Western thing. It's a Eurocentric thing that we can sort of pick and choose and borrow culturally. I like the word appropriate culturally from other places in the world, like yoga, for instance. We have appropriated yoga in the West, but very few people know that there's other degrees to that. Meditation, fasting, a certain degree of isolation. There's certain things that go with just doing yoga. And so certain segments of our community has made yoga real fashionable and real popular, and we got all kind of yoga gear and yoga mats, and but you're separating yoga, isolating it from its cultural dynamic. And so we are doing the same thing with Orisha. And that's why I sort of, I have my little shady comments, and I say Orisha romance. And I mean, we have a love affair with Orisha as African Americans in particular. We want to reconnect with our roots. We want to reconnect with where we come from. Orisha is most visible. Orisha is most easily Googled and binged you know, and so we've latched on to Erisha, much like we did Swahili in the 70s, as sort of a ethnic cultural representative of a whole. If we look at Rastafari, Ethiopia is sort of the symbolic representative of the whole. So they focus in on Ethiopia. We don't talk about the rest of the continent. We saw that with Nuwapians and the interest in Egyptian practice. And so we narrow in on certain aspects of Egypt, but we forget about everything else that goes into the religion. How many of us have seen an actual Kemetic ceremony where libations were being poured, where incantations and chants and mantras were being spoken? There's a whole nother aspect to these spiritual practices that have now been popularized in social media. So I know I always say way too much, but I'm gonna allow my cousin to speak from a more traditional Ifa perspective about sort of, you know, appropriating Erisha if you are uninitiated.
Thank you.
As far as uninitiated, I think I shared maybe an episode or two ago that some people, they feel inclined through the feeling that they have of maybe they feel beautiful that day and they want to evoke Ashun. You know, you might, you know, one day feel like a warrior and want to invoke Ogun, you know. And I think my cousin actually spoke to it then and said, okay, you know, you feel that day, maybe give some flowers to take flowers to the water. Maybe take, you feel Ogun, go to the railroad tracks and pray that things will be strong for you, that you'll have courage and strength, and that things will open up for you. You know, you have to know what the facets of each Orisha mean before you really invoke Orisha anyway. So if you don't know what Ogun brings and represents, it's probably best to leave it alone and just acknowledge that you feel that way. You can always just say a sentence, thank you, I feel close to Baba Ogun today. Great, no problem. You acknowledged them, but you didn't go into an area that you weren't knowledgeable about or trained with. And so no problem there. I think for, you know, as far as the Isese perspective, in order to receive Orisha, it is that when you go to receive your first, you say your hand of Ifa, the Ishefa, then when you go through your reading, you will then, through that Odu Ifa, it will come out what Orisha is walking with you to the next stage. Then that will allow for you to develop a closer relationship with the Orisha that is for you. And so I would just say, acknowledge what you feel. Just don't go too deep so that you don't open up things that you're not ready for. And then number two, go about it where if you're desiring to really come close in relationship to Orisha, then go about it in the sense that you will know exactly what Orisha is working with you. And then you can then honor and revere and work with that Orisha on a closer level for yourself. And that would be my perspective, the perspective of Ifa. And I just always want to acknowledge my Aluo, Oba Kabiesifik Beme Feshem Futsola. It is important that we all, you know, as you go through your elevation, your ascension into the tradition, that you always give honor to those who taught you and shared with you and gave you life. So that's another, in a sense, it's another ritual, but it's a ritual that we used to, our elders used to hear them, even in church or in other aspects. They would say who their line of people came from. And, you know, and they give credit to their, you know, people would ask you, well, who are your people? This person, this elder, that ancestor, that. All right, we can talk now, you know? So it's all kind of ritualistic. It's all things that we learned. We didn't even realize that we learned from our elders and from our ancestors, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, as we watched them do these things. And they told us to go sit down and be quiet we didn't realize that we needed to be paying attention and watching. And it's one of the reasons why so much of our culture and our traditions are dying. And if it's not for people like Mama Denise and my cousin, then those rituals, they begin to fade, and we lose sight of the importance of our people. And that's also connection that is extremely important to help you to get started and move forward.
And let me add something, because you brought back memories about people asking, who's your people?
Yes.
Because you were suspect until they could connect your bloodline.
Yes.
So even in dating, if you showed up at some girl's house to date her, they would say, well, who's your people? And you go, oh, my mama's this one. And they'll go, who's your grandmother? Who's your grandfather? And then they'll work that in their minds until they go, oh, I know who you are. So they identified you by your bloodline.
That's right.
And then it was at that point that they would say, baby, you want a little something to eat? We cook this, that, or the other. And see, in that, and in New Orleans especially, in the Creole community from which I came, until we know who you were, we're going to sit you in the living room. Now, you see, when they invite you into the kitchen, to the kitchen table, and you're invited to, and it could be 17 people in that little bitty kitchen on chairs and some in the hallway and all of that. Until you're invited in the back, then you know that the closer you are to those pots on that stove, the more welcome you are. When they bring you close to the Creole food, then you know you're welcome. So that was, we did not mate indiscriminately in my day. You knew who you were coming from, who your children were coming from, right? Now, you may get the worst boy in the family, but you knew that the foundation was there, and that even if you got a bad husband, you got a good mother-in-law or a good father-in-law, a good sister and brother-in-laws. You understand what I'm saying? And so I think part of that, even rituals are important in that we know, who's coming into our bloodline.
I listen to the both of you, and powerful responses from the both of you, by the way. But I hear something that's sort of in unison. I heard my cousin talk about acknowledging those who came before, and he didn't get very specific, but I'm familiar with what he's talking about. Before you start a divination, before you get into a ritual, there's a chant, there's a mantra, there's a process, there's a rhythm of acknowledging not just the ancestors, but your Oloye, those who came before you, their elders, their godparents, etc. And so I often teach that there's a ashe is shared.
That's right.
You don't own it. It's not personal to you. It's shared. It's conferred upon and it's shared. And so in the invoking of those names, you're also reawakening their power and your energetic connection to that power. So I hear Denise saying, who your people is, which they still do in New Orleans, by the way, says something about your energy, says what kind of ashe is on you, give them some sense of what you might be capable of, or what your potential might be based on that shared energy. So I often say, you can't practice these traditions in isolation.
That's right.
When you look at indigenous cultures, there was no isolation in the way that we assume isolation today. If you were, separated from the village and sent to live out in the wilderness by yourself, it was usually a reason and not a good one, and you were not expected to survive very long, in that environment. So the idea of, the kitchen witch, the private witch, I'm at home doing my magic, my ritual without any connection to our ancestors, the power of our own head being activated, and then that power and connection to the community.
That's right.
I think that's another reason Eshu is first, because he's a man of the streets.
That's right.
And so you've got to be able to walk and operate within the dynamics of life for us as human beings, as God having this human being experience. And so that connection to energy is essential to how we move. We start using words like luck and bad luck and misfortune. And well, you know, I got a friend that says it all the time. Oh, you just lucky. I said, oh no, I don't believe in luck. I believe in being blessed. I believe in being anointed. I believe
and you believe in work. You got to do the work.
I believe in need to move work that can change your destiny, that can affect the probable outcome of things. It's one of the reasons I sort of gave up Christianity. I didn't like the feeling of being powerless. I didn't like the feeling of having to wait until I died. I didn't like the feeling of having to forgive and forgive again and forgive again and just wait on the timing, you know, for the blessing to come in. ATR gave me a sense of personal empowerment. It gave me a sense that there's always something you can do. You can always go to the Babalawo, the Ianifa, the Mambo, the Hokan, the minister, and get direction about something that you can do to affect immediate results within your reality. And I say immediate result because magic is so teetering on top of the idea of spells, which we know are temporary. And the notion that I want something and I want it now, but I want it to be long lasting and perfected and you know, everything I want and need it to be.
There's a process in everything.
Without acknowledging that process.
That's right. And let me say one thing about sending off people into the woods alone at that week, because let me tell you, the tribe is strongest together, just like the pack, a wolf pack is stronger together. At this point, if somebody is sent away, I need you all to understand that we have done everything in that tribe to heal that person, to get them on the right path. They have been talked to. They have been given healing ritual. They have been given mind rituals. They've been offered a new way of living. We have, as a tribe, as a village, as a community, sought to heal the very soul of that person. We tried everything we knew how. If at that point that person is still a danger to this community, we have no other choice but to move them away from us. Because if you have a person that does not value their own life or the life of the community, therefore he is a danger or she is a danger to all of us, and she must be sent away. And so I don't want you to think that we just put people out. We don't do it that way. We work with these people. We work in forgiveness. We work in ritual. We work in love. And all these things before a decision is made that this person can harm the whole community and therefore must be put away. So I need y'all to understand that. We don't throw people away just like talking about it.
And that's why that desire to want to spell people, hex people, do revenge work on people. You know, you had a bad relationship, you were treated, abused, even treated badly, and that human part wants revenge and wants to be able to, you know, cook up something and kill without considering that person's ancestors, who that person is connected to, the children, the mama, the grandparents. There again, we stand on the shoulders of mighty ancestors.
Yeah.
To kill me, you'd have to kill all my ancestors. To do negative to me, my ancestors would have to support that, accept that, or allow that. Just as Denise just so eloquently explained. So you can't harm the righteous. You can't harm the innocent. You can't harm those who are walking truly within the dynamics of their destiny, and that negative desire, that negative energy to want to retribute, can be better applied in other ways magically to sort of propel you forward and beyond whatever the infraction might be.
That's right.
And I'm not in denial of grievous infractions.
Oh, I'm not either.
We know that there are secret societies in West Africa that existed long before we know anything about the police and the judicial system. Their job was not only to separate that person that might be the problem, but to remove and eliminate that person. And they would often come out at night, so everybody huddled into their huts, often with great fear and trepidation. I believe to some degree that the Egunguns also have a certain degree of that history. We don't often see that demonstration today, but those ancestral masquerades would come out, and that abuser, that pedophile, that murderer would disappear.
That's right.
And so there is a place for retribution, righteous retribution. But many of us in today's society and today's culture are operating in our flesh, our feelings, our ego, our carnality. We often want more from the next person than we are desiring from ourselves.
Willing to give.
Yeah, than we're willing to give, And so it makes it real dangerous when people start, emailing me, messaging me about doing harm. Cousin, one of the communications that upsets me the most is about people wishing to do harm to infants or unborn children. So you messed up, you didn't had an affair, now you got a baby on the way, and they have the audacity to put it in writing, and send that to me. It catches my breath every time I see that. And just the notion that that type of activity might be happening now in today's context. We know in the terms of enslavement, you might not want to bring another baby into slavery. You might not want to subject the next generation to being enslaved by master or raped and abused by master. But when I hear that and see that, again, we're talking about the appropriation of our traditions without a real understanding of the history, the base, the purpose, the root. It's what makes this practice dangerous in uneducated hands.
It's true. And, to go back on what we talk about being able to deal with people, in many of the Odu Ifa, it speaks about you having enemies all around you. Some of them will say you have enemies close to you. Some would say you got to watch, here, there, and whatever. The Odu Ifa, it straight out tells you. But it also tells you, don't do anything because Ifa already is in motion doing something. Or your ancestors are already in motion doing something. There's nothing that you have to do sometimes. It's already being done on a very different level. I will share with you this. If you think about, there's a gospel song that Yolanda Adams used to sing, or she still sings, who knows? The battle is not yours, it's the Lord's, right? So therefore, at times, you have to allow people to go through their own mistakes, their errors, their whatever you want to call it. But understand something, that everybody came here with their own destiny. And whatever it is that they are doing, going through, it is either to elevate them in their destiny, or it is to force them to look at the lessons that are meant for them to be learned. Then, if that person is not learning his lessons, every day in life becomes more and more and more and more difficult. It's almost like a ritual in itself that nothing has to be done by you. It's already being done on a very different level. And so that forces us to be able to really have to move with Iwa Pele, with the gentle character, with good character, with integrity, as best we can behind everything we do. Yes.
Big baby. That's right.
Yes.
Listen, there are so many things happening behind the scenes.
Yes.
Unseen forces that are going on that you have no idea what's working, right?
Yes.
For you to learn those lessons. Now, I'm going to say this. Alexis, there's something that just hit my spirit.
Okay.
I need you to understand that we are all here to serve.
Mhm.
That's the purpose. That's the foundation of it. We're here to serve. What you're looking for is how you are supposed to serve.
Mhm.
But your life is nothing unless you give service to something, somebody else, the good of something. Okay.
Mhm.
So the search is really not what you're here to do, is how you're here to do it.
Mhm.
And so my prayer for you is that that revelations come to you on how you're here to serve. Because the foundation is we're all here to serve.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
For me personally, that's another way of saying I am
I
God.
am.
I
Mhm.
create and recreate with God. We are
That's
here
right.
to be an earthly, fleshly demonstration of the divine creators. And indeed, our ancestors, those who've come before, continue to push and mold and protect and defend that with each new birth, with each new generation. So we all have which is why I brought this panel together. We all have our different aspect, our different view into the house of ATR. If we viewed traditional African-based religious systems as a house, we all are looking into the house through various windows that are part of where we are in our destiny. But we come together well in this space, in the addressing of your questions, in the sharing of the information, and hopefully in the demonstrating that we don't have to have tribalism. We don't have to debate over tribe, over ethnicity, over a particular house, over a particular lineage. You know, I have Nago Ifa practitioners listening. I got Santeria practitioners listening. I got Kandable listeners. You know, we all have our lineage, our path, but there's a way for us in 2021, 2022 to come together across these previously religious barriers and meet a common goal that feeds community. Before I pass the mic, someone was asking about or made a statement about community. Oh, Ebony Ducker.
Yeah.
She's new to ATR and she's looking for a community. First, this is going to sound so sort of old fashioned, but there's a saying, a philosophy, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. I sort of
Absolutely.
feel the same way about community. When it's time at the appropriate crossroads, we meet individuals and we meet community. So sometimes that's individual, and with each new individual, we build community. Sometimes that's stepping into and becoming a part of a well-established community. So I'm from up north. Some people don't like to hear me say that. I was born in Chicago. I grew up in the furthest northern reaches of the South as you can go, the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And then I spent a great deal of my earliest years up north. And I traveled. You know, I was on the street at 14 and I was forced to move from state to state, city to city, place to place. So I know that there are voodoo communities, Ifa communities, Lukumi communities, Santeria communities, and particularly in the larger cities. Now, they tend to be a little bit elitist, and they often are closed communities. And so you have to sort of be invited into them or stumble upon them and ask your way into them. But after you've done, you know, a Google search of these traditions within your community, and you maybe don't find that, in your city, your town, your state, we do have the power of the internet, which makes the world so much smaller. So you have a community here that we share, a sacred space here. You're also welcome to interact with my cousin, who's here to represent, an authentic doorway into traditional Ifa practice. I'm here to represent an authentic doorway into Louisiana Voodoo. Denise is here to be griot and mentor and queen mother, to our community. And of course, our beloved co-host Neophyte Core, at some point is going to realize he's supposed to be one of my first priests, and it's going to find his way into alignment. He's my wayward brother, because he want to do things his way, and the way he's used to doing it, and then I'm okay with that, and but things are growing, so I digress. Welcome, beloved. How are you today?
Blessed as always. I really wanted to thank everybody. Today's show spoke to my heart, especially because, like I said, I like to share exactly my experience, and I went down every one of those wrong paths. So all of those that are out, that are trying to find their way, tradition is key. Tradition and ritual and being able to connect with just those in the past that created a foundation for you to stand on. Because if you don't acknowledge the platform that you're standing on, you will sink. And I am bear witness to that I have sunken before. It's taken a long time to get my head out of that negative space. And practicing these traditions without that guidance will lead you exactly there. Exactly where they're talking about being in that negative space. Doing it without the elders will put you smack dab in the middle of all of that negativity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I've been deep in that. So I'm just acknowledging the fact that this panel that is above me right now is really calling my heart. And I'm going to have to acknowledge the Divine Prince, his calling to me. I'm going to have to acknowledge that.
Yeah. Yeah, we work well on air. I can just imagine meeting you and what things would be like once we, built a relationship beyond the airways. And I'm here for you, beloved. I'm grateful that my mother, for those of you who aren't clear, Gary Voncell Savage is my mother, cousin. The Honorable Evangelist.
Hello, Auntie.
Honorable Evangelist Savage. So she'd be your cousin.
Cousin? Okay. Hello, cousin.
Yeah, so, but she's my mother, so she's, you're my cousin on my dad's side, so she'd be your cousin, because of the marriage.
All right.
I'm always grateful when she acknowledges the work as well. For me, in my imagination, she also sort of represents any opportunities for communication with the Black church. And there is a pathway that the Black church could take, could develop, could further promote, that can bring a greater sense of unity in the community than what we are experiencing right now. And particularly when we think about conflict over religion, over Muslims, over Ifa, over Voodoo, over religion. And I see a day when I have a sacred space, a temple space, where all ATR is able to come together under one roof and share that space under one roof without conflict. Alexis Williams says that there's a large, the largest Santeria community is in Union City. Yes. I forgot. What state are we talking about? What state is Union City?
This is New Jersey.
Oh, right. Oh, you're in New Jersey.
Yes.
You're surrounded by it.
Yes.
Santeria, Now, what I hear, and I'm only speaking for myself, what I hear out of that region, New York, New Jersey, is people are turned off by drama.
Okay.
And so I get people coming from your region who say, I was a part of an Ile, I was a part of a house, and this happened, that happened, this, you know, and so there's a great degree of activity in ATR where you are. But just in anything, you know, you've got to be able to separate yourself from the drama. You got to be able to be clear about what it is that you are investigating. I think we overlook the necessity to study. I was taught by an elder, you had to study before you could receive an Erisha. You had to study before you could receive a ritual, which means you had to know the language. You had to know what was going on. You have to know why it's happening. You have to know from what powers, you know, are being spoken and or invoked. And so you do the same thing when you buy a house. You do the same thing when you buy a car. And you check the details. You want to know the mileage and the oil and the gas, and has it been appraised, and has it been inspected. But we live in a day and time where somehow people walk into religion and spirituality with sort of a magical consciousness. And I don't mean you, Alexis, but I just mean in general. And so they
Yes.
don't do any research, they don't do any homework. They come to me and claim to have received A, B, and C. And when I start asking questions about, well, what is that? They don't know. Well, beloved, what was it called? They don't know. Well, who was present? They don't know. And so that's why, you know, sometimes I seem a little, you know, Erisha romance. I pick a little bit because I know that in any pathway of Ifa, it don't work like that. In any path of Voodoo, it doesn't work like that. So you have to learn the language. And it's the same way I'm sure Denise would tell you if you're cooking jambalaya or you cooking a gumbo. You know, you're going to know how your grandma cooked it. You're going to know how your parents cooked it because that's your first demonstration. That's your hands-on walk into. So it's real easy to say, oh, I can cook, I can bake, but where did that come from if it didn't come from baking university, if it didn't come from chefing school? It came from your parental guidance. So I'm often alarmed when people come to me as a client and say, oh, well, I need a reading, but then they spend 10 minutes telling me how they have a hand to Ifa and they went to Cuba, you know, for a week. And then I start using words they're unfamiliar with, language they're unfamiliar with, processes they cannot explain to me. It's very alarming. And they throw a great deal of money at it. And Denise and I talk about this a lot. You can't even learn Spanish in a week. You can't learn Yoruba in a week. The language, Yoruba, let alone the culture and tradition and practices that also go along with the language. It's the equivalent of a Asian or a Middle Eastern coming from the rural areas of Eurasia coming to America and then trying to make sense of, hey, blood, what's happening? How you doing? What's going down? You know, that don't make no sense to them. What's up? That wouldn't make a bit of sense to them. You know,
That's
okay.
why I draw back off of those 25-year-old voodoo priestess. You 25 years old and you're calling yourself a voodoo priestess when in the culture alone, you're not even in this life lesson, you are still an infant. So how can you be a 25-year-old voodoo priestess and you can't take care of your own mess? You see what I'm saying? You don't know how to deal with your own stuff. And so I've got to let them know, and I meet them all the time on my tours, and I'll tell them, I'm gonna say, you know, baby, I respect what you think, but I need you to know that you got to be deeper in this life to learn those lessons. I understand you think this is what you are because somebody told you or you read something or you think you've been initiated. Anybody, there are many people who will take your $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 and initiate you. but it means absolutely nothing in the reality of these lessons, right? Nobody's born with an instruction book. You didn't get an individual instruction book coming into this life. And therefore, like Ty said, you got to work this process. And all these lessons ain't gonna be easy. When you start naming yourself, you gotta have some experience behind this name, right? So that's one of the reasons Ty and I are close. We talk about these things all the time, these people who are claiming to be things that they're not at 25 years old. So
yeah.
That would be a mic drop.
Yeah, that was a mic drop. I'm also allowing someone else to speak for a change. Sometimes I think I talk way too much.
I'm sorry. I'm very passionate about this. And so I interrupted you. And for that, I'm sorry. That's that only child in me that I've never gotten control of. I'm used to being able to say what I want to say when I say it. I offer my deepest apologies. And in that, I just prove that some of the lessons you learn for a lifetime. You know,
Indeed.
I'm hoping to get over that by the time I'm 75. Okay. So,
yes, indeed. Not the 75.
That's exactly right.
Cousin, did you want to speak to Anthony X, or do I want to go first? When I say Uwa Bu Afia, the world is a marketplace. I know in Voodoo, we're not just talking about where the women sell fabric and pottery and food. The world, meaning life, is a marketplace. So there's a give and take. There's an exchange going on. There are debts and credits being created. There are bills being paid off, by way of our activity in our spiritual life and our involvement with the world. A question that I'm often in discussion with somebody I'm close to about is the purpose of life, the point of life. Why am I here? And again, many of you through Western culture and Western default accept the illusion of isolation, accept the illusion that I'm here by myself, that no one cares, that no one thinks about me, that no one cares about me, that what I do doesn't matter. And indeed, as Denise suggested, we're here to serve. We're here to be divine, earthly manifestations of the creators and the ancestors. So no one is here just for recreation. No one is here just to pass the time for 80 years and then pass on. Every single one of us has a ministry, has a job, has something purposeful to do that extends not just beyond you and your world and your house, but your community, your family. And that's one of the things in indigenous cultures that we aspire to, is being born to become an ancestor. And it's what you do in the middle that feeds that goal of becoming an elevated ancestor.
Correct.
An acknowledged ancestor. She did well in school. She did well as a young adult. She went on to have a family and did well with her family, and then created businesses and created other young individuals who went on to do well. And that's what feeds, sort of that ancestral power. So yeah, the marketplace is sort of a symbolic euphemism. Is that the right word? Within the tradition. So it can, and that's the case with many aspects of the language of ATR, Ifa, Voodoo, Akan, because there's always multiple meanings to the words. I describe them as a capsule, like an Odu is a capsule. And you can look at that capsule and you know what bottle you got and you know what's supposed to be in that medicine bottle. But then you open that capsule and there are layers and deeper degrees of information that are revealed as you go into that Odu. And it gets more specific and more specific and more personal as you delve into it. So yeah, many of the words that we use, Anthony, and greetings, Anthony. My apologies, beloved. Anthony is a new student, a new initiate. He actually came down here to the house over the weekend. So thank you, Anthony, for participating. So yeah, the marketplace is almost like Camelot. It's sort of a mystical, magical, spiritual place that really does exist in the real world, but also exists in the spiritual world. And depending on where you are in your degree of consciousness at any time, is what you're able to see and understand in terms of this marketplace. Cousin, I know you have something, Ifa, to say to add to that.
So we can look at it from a few different perspectives. We can look at the marketplace, as my cousin has said, and we can look at it as to what debts we're going to be leaving and what debts we might be paying off from our ancestors before. What have they maybe not completed that we have to complete for them, right? What is it that we are going to be leaving for our next generations to come that really we're trying to do the best we can to work on these things and to build up these things, so we're not leaving a big debt for anybody behind us to be able to have to clean up. And so when you become closer to spirit and closer to the tradition and closer to working on these things in your life, it's essential that when you're getting your readings and you're seeing all of these Odus come up, and the Odu says, you need this, you'd have to work on that, you need to initiate to that, this, and this. It is essential that you try to do your best you can to work in alignment with these things so that you are paying off your own debt. I don't want to leave a big debt for my daughter. I don't want to leave a big debt for grandkids. I don't want to leave a big debt that everybody else got to clean up my stuff. I actually want to leave a credit. I want to leave a credit. I want to leave where there's an abundance. So then as time goes by, maybe a mistake's going to be made, but then as an ancestor, I left a credit. So now, let us now work on for ourselves. We have to make sure that we're working on leaving a credit so that our ancestors have something to fall back on. And when they do make a mistake, we lived our life in such a way that we left them something that now they can say, oh, I'm so glad that grandfather, whatever the case might have been, has left this abundance for us. Of course, we want to do that in a financial level. We want to leave something of value. We want to leave property. We want to leave something, but we want to leave it in a mental, in an emotional, and in a spiritual realm as well. Pay off the debts that are before us. Make sure we're paying off our debt and leave a credit for those who are coming after us. So they'll be blessed abundantly by the work that we have done and the effort that we have put forth. What is it that we're trying to leave here? What is it that we have done in our life that will show them in the future? You know, what contributions are we going to leave? What contributions are we giving to the world? What contributions is it? Okay, so besides this life in spirituality, I also have life in martial arts. So I've been fortunate in martial arts to be recognized in that. So now when my daughter and the granddaughter and the look at it, they say, that's my grandfather. What is it positive that we're going to leave for them? Because every day as well, we're writing our own obituary. Every single day, we're writing our obituary. And so every single day, we try the best that we can to be able to leave that they can write the obituary. It's already written. Such and such did this. We did this. He did this. He did this. At times, just like everybody else in the world, he had challenges, but this is how he overcame the challenges. And now today, we look at him, and then that is the reverence of Egun, the reverence of being ancestor. That's what we try to do. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. Ashe, Asheo. I just wanted to remind everyone that the phone lines are open at 845-277-9143, 845-277-9143. I have about a dozen people who are listening in, but indeed, if you have a question, comment, or request, remember that you must press the number 1 on your telephone keypad. That will raise your hand for me, and then I'll come back and unmute your mic. I'm welcoming those who have joined us as co-hosts here today, live on screen. Thank you so much. I have muted the distraction in the chat room. So those who were paying attention, Joshua, Benjamin, he's been muted. I'm getting better, Kiona, thank you. Sometimes Kiona got to kick me in the butt to sort of remind me of what I need to pay attention to. And just her activity helped me to sort of remember that I do have access to go directly to these platforms, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, and block people if they become a problem in the chat. So he's been blocked. Neophyte Bokor, we've been talking about ritual and magic and ancestors. Did you have something you want to say today, beloved, or are you just looking good for the audience?
A little of both. Yeah, all I wanted to part with before I get back on this road, it brings to mind what you guys were talking about also is inheritance and legacy. This is big words for our tradition as well. What we in the Black community seem to be lacking right now is true legacy and inheritance passed down.
Yes.
It seems like we've been purposely kind of ambushed and from being able to even understand the simple definition of those two words, let alone their uses. And I think that would be a great way to overcome that obstacle is in this tradition, learn what it means to be in legacy, to pass down or create legacy, functional legacy, not just with your money and whatnot, but the tradition as well. I've grown up with a lot of the traditions that my grandparents left behind, but as they passed away and became elders, the living ones tend to let those traditions die off. Where we used to have certain things that we would do for Thanksgiving and Christmas and these times, just for my family alone. As soon as those grandparents moved on, that's when all the traditions stopped. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure a lot of my generation can relate to that same thing. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of an older millennial, but I'm still considered a millennial. But us millennials, we have no concept of these traditions passed down. This right here, this safe space right here seems like a very good outlet for that. And I would suggest that we start flocking to it. But on that note, I say, Ashe, I'm going to hit this road, and it's always a blessing to be here. Thanks for having me on.
We appreciate you, and thank you for your contribution.
Blessings.
And I must stop just for a moment. I did, I get these alerts. Some of y'all hear the alerts, and I usually ignore them or try and turn them down. And I did click on one, and of course, everybody now is posting their feelings of bereavement and mourning for DMX. So DMX, the notorious rapper and performer, and he has passed on. Everybody is posting it and tweeting it right now. Another one is now going on to be healed, repaired, mm-hmm. renewed, mm-hmm. and then recycled back into the light mm-hmm. Of the Most High. So I just want to take a moment and acknowledge. We don't always do that on the show, but I felt led to do so today, and particularly in this case. Um, Such a tragedy on so many different levels. It could easily open a discussion into, so many things: drug addiction, alcoholism and abuse, unresolved PTSD, post-traumatic slave disorder, unresolved shadow work, and there are many among us right now, listening to me right now, that's dealing with depression, mental health, don't have a big support. And this might be the limits of your support. But right here, I beg you to reach out. I beg you to reach out. I'm here for you. My cousin is here for you. Denise will make herself available to you. You got a community. You are not isolated. And there is an out to your pain. There is an out to your addiction. There is an out to that darkness. So I just feel led. And Neophyte Bokor and some of my regulars, y'all know I've never done this before. The hairs are standing up all over my body right now. It's just a weird feeling associated with this particular death and the lessons that we need to glean. I also think that it feeds into what we were already talking about, legacy. And Neophyte Bokor said, oh, well, not necessarily money, but no, yeah, money. And because, we can do religion and culture and teach you how to fish and teach you how to cook and but without the behavior that goes along with money. I'm going to share a secret. Money ain't my best area. Denise is my sponsor, is my financial sponsor. She's the one that says, you don't need that. Don't buy that. Are you saving? What are you doing? Are you handling your resources? Because I didn't get that at home. And my parents made decent income, but they didn't teach that. They didn't demonstrate that. They didn't discuss the bills in front of us. They didn't discuss the money in front of us. I didn't have a clue what savings was, what credit was, none of that. And many of you under the sound of my voice don't either. Let's be truthful. You don't either. So do what I did. When you don't know, you seek guidance. You don't know, you go to the elders. You go to somebody who know better than you. So legacy, my point, legacy, insurance, life insurance. I know many of you say, I can't even afford medical insurance, but medical insurance is important, but life insurance is also important, if not critical, to legacy. Making sure that your descendants, your family, the community is not stuck with your burial costs, your burial bills, your unpaid credit cards, and so your children and the next generation is already stunning because mama didn't leave nothing, granddaddy didn't leave nothing, grandmama didn't leave nothing.
Leave a credit.
Yeah.
Leave a credit. That's all about leaving a credit. Having a good life insurance policy that at the very least takes care of the final burial things and hopefully having some extra. When you're a baby, start them off with a retirement fund. All you got to do is put a few dollars in each month. It doesn't have to be extreme amount, but now you've already set them up so when they're 55 or whenever they can draw their money out, they have money that they didn't even realize. That's a blessing. That's a legacy that you've already left them, something to take them further in their life than possibly you had.
That's right.
So what legacy are we leaving for those who are going to be coming behind us? Financially, what is it that they're going to receive from us that we've done? Have we begun a business? Have we begun a business? It doesn't have to be something major, but maybe something that you're doing now as a hobby that can parlay into a few dollars. And then if you're not going to use the money, you don't need the money, then put it in the retirement fund for the kid or the grandkid, whatever. So we have to look at palpable skills and things to do to help to leave that legacy, to leave a credit.
Yes.
That's right. Now, still today, when newcomers come to this country, If we are so broke, you tell me why they open businesses in Black neighborhoods, the grocery store, the liquor store, the 99-cent store, this,
South,
that, the other. If Black people don't have no money, why are you opening a business where there's no money? They call us the walking cash registers. They know that they will get their wealth from us because we cannot resist spending $1. Now, let me tell you, nobody in the world is better at a hustle than Black people. The sister's going to do this. She's going to say, oh, baby, don't cook Friday. I'm cooking. Look, $15.99 a plate. Look, I'm frying fish. I'm making potato salad. Don't cook. Come give me a plate. Or let me braid your hair. Or let me clean your house. Or let me do this. That's not money to spend. That's money to put on the side for an opportunity.
That's right.
And still today, the fastest way to become a millionaire is in real estate.
That's right.
That is the fastest way to become a millionaire is buying property, buy land, hold it. Sooner or later, they might have to put a highway there, and then they got to pay you. They might, if you see a Starbucks come up in your neighborhood, your land just tripled. Buy land, buy lots, buy houses. Start with one and a rental property. Let somebody else pay the note. Every time you got to upgrade something, don't go cheap. Put the best in that property that you can put at the time. You understand? You're supposed to have a job, a half, and a hustle. And stack it. Stack that money. Right? Why is all the hair that we buy at $300 and $400, $500 worth of hair? Why is it that we're making Vietnamese, and I ain't got nothing against nobody, Koreans and all them people rich when we buying hair? Why is it that our name ain't on that nail shop and that toe shop? If we're gonna spend money on those things, we supposed to be spending money in our community. Nobody is supposed to be doing my nails but a sister. So when her people, and I own a tour company, so when her friends come to town and they're having the girls' weekend somewhere, I'm supposed to be the person they call to do that Afro Creole tour for them. You see, the money is supposed to circulate within our community. That dollar is supposed to circulate to the nth degree within our own community. So, I mean, I'm sorry, but we got to get rid of that crabs in the barrel mess. Okay? Now, but Vietnamese, Chinese, all them people come into our neighborhood. How many dollars of their money come back into our neighborhood? Right? We love a shrimp sandwich. I'm supposed to be providing that shrimp sandwich. They take their money and recycle it, remove it, and circulate it within their own communities, and we're supposed to do the same thing. This is not racist. This is about survival. And we better learn now that economics is a part of our survival. The more money we have, the more political power we have. The more property we have. You go down to City Hall and say, listen, I own 5 houses on Jake P. Morgan Street or whatever. And I'm a multi-property owner. And therefore, I need that straight fix. I'm paying property tax and I got 5 houses, and why is that street not fixed? You can make demands. The Bible said them that's got shall get. Them that's got. So the more you get, the more you will get. It is designed for those who have something to get more. That's all it is to it. It's a spiritual lesson.
We have to also look at the economic power community-wise.
That's right.
When we look back at the civil rights movement, what was one of the most significant things of the civil rights movement? It was the boycott of the bus.
That's right. That's how it started.
And that boycott had then made everybody, even if they didn't want black people riding the bus or whatever, they realized that they needed the economics of the community to support, or they couldn't go further with.
They couldn't operate.
Right, they shut it down. And even today, when we look at the movements that are happening now after the brother Floyd killing and all of those things and the different ones, we also got to know that our voice has a significant amount of power. So our voice plus our economics have a power that can affect change.
Yes, it can.
People got to realize right now in this Floyd trial was the first time probably ever that police officers are coming to actually to be giving what do you call it, testimony against their own.
That's right.
And now watch the changes that are going to be made, because everybody's stepping now out of it, and now there's going to be changes probably in a lot of different police forces. And if not, this is going to now escalate to an even higher and more it's going to escalate to another level. We have to understand the power.
Floyd's death means something. Don't let George Floyd die on camera for nothing. You see, this is not new. We've been dying under these kind of circumstances.
Right.
What's different is that now it's being filmed.
Yes.
To play the conscious of America is now wide open for the world to see. You understand? It used to be hidden and denied, right? Now the world can see. And let me tell you, my grandma used to say, sight beats the world. I don't care what you say, how you try to defend that. I don't care if he had heroin, cocaine, had smoked a rock. I don't care what he had eaten, drank, shot up, hit his head before he got there. He died because of lack of oxygen. And if he was a threat, why did this policeman have his hands in his pocket? You don't put your hands in your pocket if you're afraid.
That's right.
Your hands are out in a defensive way. This policeman kneeled on this boy with his hands in his pocket. Okay, so the world can see. You cannot deny this. This is what it was, and of course we have to go through the process. But you can't defend this.
But you know, when I look at it, when you look at it from a spiritual level, that's Ebo. That man was Ebo, and because he was Ebo, it began to make an extravagant. Isn't that the Ebo? Isn't that Ebo? Isn't that the magic or whatever you want to call it? Isn't that what is supposed to happen? That it's the exchange of that energy. Yeah. And unfortunately, the exchange of the energy wasn't done in a good way. But when it gives us a lesson. Here's a great lesson. That Ebo that was done was not done in a righteous manner. And because it wasn't done in a righteous manner, now the manifestation of the Ebo is going to come about in this change that's going to negatively affect the one who did Ebo.
That's right.
Isn't that the so if things were done in an appropriate stance, Ebo, then it's supposed to make positive change. That's the reason why in each of the verses of our Odu Ifa, it gives a prescription, with many of it having a particular offering or Ebo, whatever, and that is supposed to effectively make change that shows that, okay, my heart and my spirit are within this change that I want. I desperately need and desire these things to manifest in my life. So now when I go to Ebo, if I go to Ebo in a righteous manner, then righteous change and building and evolution and all of healing, all of that is what's meant to happen. This is the actual thing that you talk. That was a ritual. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That was a ritual. It was to say that me as this person or the cop or the white man or whatever you want to say can do what I want to do regardless of whether the cameras or people are yelling or whatever it is that they want. It was a ritual. So now the ritual can happen positively or negatively.
That's right.
We have to be mindful now because it's a perfect lesson of ritual.
That's right.
Am I going into this ritual with the right mind, with my hands open, with my spirit and all that in alignment for it to make the change that it needs to make?
That's
or am
right.
I going in there with a negative mindset, negative energy, negative thoughts and all of that? Then my ebo is not going to manifest in a good way.
I agree. And before we get too far ahead, I wanted to acknowledge Anthony Anderson's question. I'm sorry, Anthony X question. How important is the significance of grief rituals individually and communally in the tradition? And to some degree, they mirror what we are exactly talking about right now. Just like when we accept and receive a baby into the world, there is indeed an exchange of energy that must be acknowledged, that must be placated. And in the grief rituals, there's also that transfer of energy. Because see, our grief and our debts to them, and that son or daughter who didn't treat mama right when she was living, and now she's gone on, and they're wanting to turn over the casket, and so emotional that grief can also prevent these souls from moving on in a peaceful, balanced way. It's like forcing Big Mama to continue to worry about her children even after she's now gone on to what should be her rest. I also believe in these grief rituals, Anthony, in a more pristine time, they would have also include the transference of inheritance, the transference of property, the transference of responsibility, if you will, within the dynamics of the family and the community. So I guess that's sort of a communal response. But then there's also that communal and individual healing that must happen, that must take place, giving yourself an opportunity to grieve and to mourn. I've dealt with so many clients in the last year, really, that didn't have an opportunity to grieve, didn't have an opportunity to mourn. In some cases, with the COVID, the family member was isolated, separated from the family, so there were no grief rituals, there were no ceremonies. We are not seeing the second lines to the degree that we normally would see in Treme, which puts a great deal of pressure and stress on the community. It's an emotional thing that we feel and talk about and experience. It's like food and water. So acknowledging grief is just as important as acknowledging birth. It's just as important as acknowledging healing, any form of transformation. There's an exchange of power there that happens.
That's right. And the rituals are always important. Mm-hmm. They're not there for nothing. They did not start for nothing, and they should be continued. It is a part of the process. Correct. It is a part of the process in your healing. Rituals are there for a reason, and they should be and must be continued, or you're going to be left hanging. You're going to be left hanging. You have to do A, B, and C to be able to move on. From birth to death.
And look at the rituals. When we deal with funerals and stuff, there's specific things that I know we do in the African American or the Black community, right?
Right.
We got the things we do before the actual funeral. You got the funeral, and then the funeral is based on the level that you are, right?
That's right.
You look at some of the funerals. You look at Whitney's funeral, or you look at Aretha's funeral. They were like 6 hours each.
That's right.
So now it's all about the level of importance that you were. It shows in the type of funeral that you have.
That's right.
Then after that, it's the importance of everybody gathering together And that gathering and food eating and all of those things, you know, it could be like, I've gone to funerals where afterwards, like my generation, we went out to go to whatever, dance or to the bar or whatever we did back then.
That's
and
right.
Why? Because our generation was dealing with, and we were together, and it helped all of us to be stronger when our grandmother or grandfather or this person or that person made it, and to be right by the family and help them and support them, right? But the elders, they didn't do that. The elders stayed at the house and they did whatever they did, whether they threw on gospel music and was praying, but they were gathered together in a way where everybody was helping to uplift each other. So all of that is ritual. We're talking about ritual. All of that is ritual. It's all how we view it, and it's all how we understand what the elements are to help to facilitate the healing process within even the people that are present.
That's why community is so important. Mm-hmm. That is why community is so important. I was telling Divine Prince the other day, it's going to come to a point where you're going to have to find your tribe. You're going to have to find your community, your tribe. It's going to be, it is not only necessary for you physically, it is so necessary for you spiritually and psychologically for you to have community, tribal members. You've got to be able to connect to a group of people. You were not designed to live and survive this life alone. When I read about people that had died and had been in the house dead for 2 and 3 months with nobody looking for them, I know nothing more sadder than that it took 3 months for somebody to know that this is how they're found. Somebody will say, I noticed a smell. It should be investigated. But for somebody not to say, wait a minute, I have not seen this person for 24, 36 hours. For somebody not to know your ritual, you know, she pulls, as soon as the trash man passed, she pulls in the garbage can. Somebody to look for you is the most heartbreaking thing I've ever heard in my life. You cannot survive intact, mentally or physically, without community and tribal members. Okay, somebody to help guide you through this lifetime. You would be surprised how many times, and you have to find people who care enough about you to be honest with you. Okay, without hurting your feelings. Everything ain't about hurting your feelings. Sometimes you need a nudge if you're headed in the wrong direction. To come to you for, and let me tell you, even at my age, I'm not above somebody coming to me and going, my elder, this, and this is how this is done now. Because I don't know all these, it takes time to bring me up on technical things and get me here and all of that. And so I need younger members of my tribe to say, listen, I need you to do this, and this, so I can do this, and this for you. Okay. And so you need members of your tribe of all ages. Them young people know a lot of stuff I don't know. But I also know when you're headed in the wrong direction because I've seen it enough times. So that's what I mean. Please don't try to live this life alone. That's all I have to say about that.
Give thanks. We got about 5 more minutes for questions, comments, requests. Area code 803, you just disappeared on me. You got to be patient with me on the phone lines. It takes me a minute to even see the phone lines because I had to shift tabs on the computer. But I apologize if you had a question or comment. Unfortunately, no one can really call into the phone line past a certain point. I believe it's 1:45, maybe 1:50. You can't call in, and then they'll have to go and listen to the remaining of the show in the archive. Yes, Alexis Williams, come out of your comfort zone, beloved. And it took my community back when I was in my 20s to sort of get me to come out of my comfort zone. One of my best friends would push and shove and prod. You need to get out of the house. You need to go somewhere. You need to move around. You need to find your people, and I found my way, outside. And Denise will witness that even today, I'm still sort of learning how to move beyond my comfort zone, be exposed to a larger group of people, new experiences, so it's something. But the need and necessity and presence of both ritual and magic in our community cannot be overstated. And it's something that we need to continue to feed as a lineage, as a heritage that we can pass down to the next generation. There should be no generation that comes after us, cousin, that says that, well, I knew it was in my family, but it wasn't talked about.
That's correct.
There, it wasn't, expressed. Same thing for you, Denise. No one, none of your kids, grandkids, or their kids should be in that blind spot anymore about who we are in terms of spirituality and religion.
I call my granddaughter the voodoo child. Okay. She dove head first into spirituality, so far deep that I started calling her the voodoo child at 13.
Yes,
she ain't playing with them. She's going look for it.
So Alexis, that community is there, especially in the New York, Pennsylvania area where you are. It's definitely there. It might require, a little commute, but it's there. It's there. Just be honest, be open, be willing to do a little research, a little study, find out who they are, what they're doing, what their platform is, and indeed what it is that you seek there will come to you. Of course, we're always available to you here in New Orleans, and we're open 24 hours a day in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. So always feel free to, email me, submit your RSVP. We'll be here waiting for you. We're going to close up. It's 57, 3 minutes to the hour. So if either of you have anything you want to say before I close out, please feel free to do so.
Well, thank you, Ty. Thank you from Our Sacred Stories at oursacredstories.com. Thank you for the opportunity, for giving me a platform to maybe guide or give hope or help somebody along the way. Let my age and experience, like the old folks say, let my light shine. You don't have to make the mistakes I made, right? I'm here to tell you what that road will lead to, or what that experience will lead to. So I thank you for the opportunity. Once again, it's been my pleasure.
Sure. I thank you both. You both give me a lot of knowledge and things to learn from. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity and to share a little bit of my experience. Of course, I'm still growing, but I'm blessed to be a part, of this with you all. So, if anybody wishes to contact me for anything, they can always email me. I'm always available. INNERKONSCIOUS@gmail.com and 405-593-5670. You're always welcome to call me. Text me first, because I won't pick up if I don't know the number. So I'm always here for anybody who would like assistance from my perspective. So my blessings to each and every one of you.
Thank you all. I appreciate your time and commitment. Listen, I've been doing this 12 years. I know what it takes to decide to sit for 2 hours at your computer and do a show like this. So I'm grateful for both of you all's love and commitment and support to this podcast. And I look forward to meeting you here again in this sacred space. Anthony X, I hope to hear from you sooner rather than later, beloved. By email, of course. And I'm thankful for Neophyte Bokur and Imani Sankofa and Ebony Ducker and Dark Soul Jua and Kayla Talk and Crystal and Witt and Alexis Williams and Dom S and Pete and Fatimat Reed and all those who showed up with us here in this sacred space. Until next time, remembering that all is truly and indeed a blessing if you can just see beyond the veils. Ashe.